Welcome, 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 beloved awakened ones. It is Wendy here once again with Raise the Vibe initiative. To any of you that are returning here, thank you so much. It is such an honor to have you here with me today. And I thank you all for your time, your energy, and your service at this time. To any of you that may be new here, hi, my name is Wendy Mahoney, and I am the host and creator of Raise the Vibe initiative. It is here we are talking about all things consciousness, evolution. We're talking about the new paradigm in co creating the new earth. Today, I have an incredible guest. I have Mr. Dan Willis on with me today. Dan is one of the Disclosure Project's top secret military witnesses that testified at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., in front of the mainstream media of the world. This World Disclosure event was asking for a congressional hearing to expose illegal secret government operations and extraterrestrial presence and to release the advanced extraterrestrial derived technologies. The hearing was, however, denied, and the mainstream media sanitized the disclosure to the public. In 2022, stemming from the prior research work of the scientists of crystals in the 1980s with scientist Dr. Marcel Vogel, a connection was made for an incredible ongoing information exchange on the advanced science of crystals with an off-grid planet Pleiadean scientist via a quantum communications implant in his friend Miss Elena Danaan. These exchanges have been given technology knowledge that can be used for our planet for very beneficial applications, as well as understanding insights into the nature of consciousness and the geometry of the holographic matrix of reality. I do want to start today's episode with a disclosure. Please note that this episode is for entertainment purposes only. We have gathered this information through our own research and use your judgment in what resonates with you, and feel free to leave the rest. And on that, please let me welcome you to Mr. Dan Willis. Well, hello, everybody. It is Wendy here once again with Raise the Vibe Initiative. And as I have mentioned, I have Mr. Dan Willis on the show today. Dan, thank you so much for being here with us today and welcome.
Oh, appreciate the invite, and it's an honor to join you.
Oh, and we're just so pleased to have you. I've had so many of our audience just really interested in knowing more about you. I wonder, Dan, if you could just introduce yourself a little bit and tell us a little bit about who you are and some of your background. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of like a science fiction background, and it's kind of interesting. I, you know, it, back in 1969, I had a high-level top secret security clearance, naval communications, and was receiving classified secret reports of extraterrestrial crafts coming out of, out of the ocean from Navy ships, and so it started me asking questions about, why the government is keeping this secret, and why the extraterrestrials don't reveal themselves, to us. Um, and so in the year 2001, I joined 21 witnesses at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., in front of the mainstream media of the world, and we all were testifying. We all stated we're willing to testify under oath before a congressional hearing, revealing, bases on the other side of the moon, 57 different species, presidents, CIA directors being denied access, just explosive information. But the mainstream media sanitized it from the public. Myself being an ex-ABC newsman, I took note of how they were, purposely uh, omitting the information that the reason it brought about that was the head of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral Wilson, gave permission to Dr. Greer to bring forward these witnesses. There was like 500 witnesses, and 21, of which I was one, went before the cameras of the mainstream media. And I thought it was going to be a world-changing event. So anyway, that's one aspect of my life that got kind of into the extraterrestrial situation. And the other aspect is in 1977, I had this interaction with a being in a Kundalini opening experience having to do with the nature of consciousness and geometry. And it led me into researching everything I could to understand this. And I sought out Dr. Marcel Vogel, IBM's head scientist, who was doing research with crystals. And then fast forward to the year 2022. My dear friend Elena Danaan, she had me on her show, and we were talking about, the history of disclosure, because I've been researching ever since 2001. I was actually researching since 1969, but heavily researching, looking at all the witnesses and documents through history, that show this hidden reality that the average public, doesn't have any idea about. And so she knew I had worked with Dr. Vogel with crystals. And so, interestingly, her contact in the Galactic Federation of Worlds, he, Thor Hanaredian, he had a younger brother who was a terraforming scientist and said, we could ask some questions. And so since 2022 to present day, I've been having this exchange with a off-planet Pleiadean scientist on the science of crystals and consciousness, and so I'm thrilled to be able, and honored, to be able to share this information from a culture that's like thousands of years ahead of our understanding, and so that's kind of a snapshot.
Oh, wow. You're so interesting. And so is Elena Danaan, by the way. At some point, I would love to have her on as well. I've been diving into some of her work. Now, so when you had the opportunity to gather some of this information, I would be very interested to hear what they have to say overall, and also in the respect, because I'm under the understanding that we are really shifting into a new reality, during this time that we've sort of energetically reached a place
Mhm.
where we're really able to make a huge shift here. What are your thoughts on that? And what is some of the information you might be able to share that you've received?
Well, I understand that we're moving into a sector in the galaxy that is a higher energetic form, and so, all the planets in our particular system is like increasing in frequency, I guess you could say. Um, yeah, and it seems like when things increase in frequency, the things get a little more intense, you could say. And so, which is good because we need to move forward to a beautiful new world that's available for us, that's been hidden behind this curtain for so many decades.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even now, being somebody who has I would say been on the journey of awakening for quite some time. I think in the masses we are seeing a lot of things crumbling at this time, right?
Mm,
It's becoming incredibly apparent and very much in people's faces, to the extent of how this current system is no longer working for us, right? So now, interested to know if you had received any information regarding some of the new ways that we could start co-creating this new Earth or this new world that we would like to be co-creating and a part of.
Oh, interesting question. Well, it's interesting. You know, I don't remember choosing this mission, but Jen Hanna said to me that the mission I've chosen is to show the Terrans, the people of our planet, how they can change their reality. And he's given a number of tools. In fact, in one one show that we did, I can share a screen here. Let me get the right slide here.
Hey everyone, just wanted to take a quick gratitude break to acknowledge and thank today's sponsor, David Sarita Technologies. In wake of today's show and talking about all of these incredible crystal technologies, I really wanted to talk about my new amazing pendant that you see me wearing today. As we're all being bombarded with these Wi-Fi waves and this EMF pollution, this really does offer a beautiful and very stylish way to rebalance and protect yourself from some of these harmful EMF pollutions. Director of Los Angeles Tesla Foundation, David Sarita, developed a technology for programming precise harmonics and frequency vibrations into crystals. I chose this beautiful rose quartz and aquamarine, but there are some incredible designs, and you can pick something that really feels right to you. He's programmed precise harmonics and frequency vibrations into these crystals, gems, and metals. This has allowed the jewelry to be treated with these harmonics in three-step process. Because the human brain and all living things with the nervous system are electromagnetic, once a person makes skin contact with these treated pieces of jewelry, their nervous system benefits by being reharmonized to natural rhythms of nature and creation. So this is just a really stylish and excellent way to ensure that all of your energy is intact and you are really allowing yourself to be protected from any of this stuff that is not serving us in the best possible way. So please feel free to go over and check out all of the beautiful designs at www.davidsarita.co. And if you enter Raise the Vibe, guys, you are also going to get a free meditational system that is really going to help to get you fully aligned and in tune. It's going to save you about a $300 cost as a free gift today. And on that, thank you to our amazing sponsor, and thank you to all of you. And back to today's program.
On this, can you see that okay?
Yes.
Yeah, we did this show specifically on creating a positive timeline in the planetary matrix using a crystal. This is based on the information that Jen Han shared with me, and that we put this to action. We had about 1,700 people live, and each person took their crystal, and we did before we did this, we did walked everybody through this visualization of this beautiful new world where the corrupt elements are all, accounted for, and just a new world was able to take place. And when everybody pulsed their breath, the Schumann resonance spiked at that exact moment. And I asked Jenhan about it, and he said, of course it had an effect. He says there is a ratio of the population that needs to be gathered to produce a visible disturbance, and you did it that day. The brainwaves emitted by all living creatures on the planet are in interresonance with the ionospheric shell, rather. And, in the 1980s, I worked with scientist Dr. Robert Beck, who was a specialist in how our brains are interconnected with this Schumann resonance and the ionospheric resonance, and how the left and right hemispheres, when no matter what, the religion is or whatever, when a person was in their working state of higher consciousness, both the left and right hemispheres, they synchronized together in perfect sync, and the amplitude increased. And he measured this on people around the world. And yeah, there's a whole story about all that. But so it's true that we're connected in this planetary matrix, is what Jenhan calls it, that each of us are like a fractal of source, and we're each creative. And as you know, with holographics and fractals, that you change any one part, it affects the whole. And this has been measured before. I believe it's a square root of 1% affects the entire planet, which of 8 billion people, that's just a little over 9,000 people. So it doesn't take a lot to create this kindling effect that affects the global collective consciousness.
Yeah. Which also could explain to, how things have been running for this, the past eons of time. If people are being embedded in the collective with these programs of fear and, very low vibrational sort of programming, which we do see sort of coming through, I think, even a lot of our entertainment. Hence, we've just had a very interesting thing come through the Olympics, which we won't get dive too far into, but there's something that's right in your face, folks. And various other programming. Now, if we are sort of unconsciously viewing these programs, that could also affect,
Absolutely.
business, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Hollywood, they it goes into a long history, but the elements that control the if you look at movies from Hollywood, it is about everyone has a gun where they're shooting somebody, or some kind of violence, humans against humans and violence, there's all this conflict and everything. And the secret societies that understand the collective hive mind of consciousness, they know that if millions of people, television and movies are like the biggest psychological weapon ever, because what humans see on the screen, they collectively create in the collective mind this kind of reality. And so when, like Joseph Goebbels, head of Nazi propaganda, said, propaganda loses its power as soon as you become aware of it.
Right.
So it's like when the people of this planet become aware of how we've been played, our consciousness, and the deceptions that have been, we can take back control of our planet.
Absolutely. We can and we are.
And we are more and more, it's exponential, the awakening. Absolutely.
Yeah, most definitely. I think when we think about how things can create, because it really seeps into our subconscious mind, where we may not even realize that it is, affecting the way that we are envisioning, right? And that brings me down to this idea of how important our imaginations are, and our importance of really consciously then being aware and mindful of the types of programming that we are witnessing and creating from ourselves. I mean, I think if we're able to sort of be, I'm very selective about the programs that I watch. Can feel the
Mm.
vibration of it and go, okay, no, this is not resonating with me. Maybe taking back the idea that we really only have control over what we can affect around us. The rest of it really is outside of our control. So there's not much energy that we can really put toward that, but we can take it back and really empower ourselves in what we can do today in our own homes, in our own communities, right? How do we start to envision more unity versus this piece of separation, because I think in the separation is where people stay enslaved.
I believe everybody in their heart wants to see this world where, there is uh, less deceptions, more love, more cooperation, uh, better living quality for everybody. Um, and, technologies have, I spent 10 years after we had the scientists back in 2001 when I went to Washington that were willing to prove we had these technologies, zero point energy and so forth, that will totally eliminate nuclear, oil, and coal. The Bush administration denied the congressional hearing. And so Dr. Greer set up a corporation with civilian scientists to try to bring out, because a lot of people have brilliant minds and come up with things. And so for 10 years, uh, is like horror stories of people being murdered, trying to come out with things. Most of them received what's called a national security order. Your invention has been deemed a detriment to the national security of the United States. You cannot share it with anybody. Over 6,000 of these have been issued. And it all stems back from the Invention Secrecy Act in 1951, where anybody that's got a anti-gravity, free energy, a medical breakthrough, all these different things. And so that that would be a good start, to release all these patents.
100%. And I've heard you speak on free energy a little bit before. I mean, we all know, Tesla had this sort of stuff engulfed, and it's been hidden for a long time. But a lot of the this stuff is coming back out, and it's coming out quick. And some of these things really could shift things in an instant. Right? So I can see why, you want to keep these things secret. But I've heard you talk about a few really interesting new technologies. And I even watched a wonderful presentation that you did. I believe it was on Sasha's show, Lazarus Initiative. And it was such a beautiful presentation of, you know, how things can be looking, and how we can look forward. What would you like to share some of your information on some of this stuff and what you've been working on as of recent? Very interested to know.
Well, until, the deep state elements are obviously still alive and well and active on this planet, and until, the most wonderful news ever is that, back in the 30s, the Nazi SS, they had an alliance with a reptilian race, and it gave them advanced technologies, which violated the Prime Directive, which got the Galactic Federation of Worlds involved. And then I just do a super turbo um, show here on uh, what if we go, okay. Oh, oh no, how'd that get in there? Oh, hmm.
Is it the gremlins? They come over.
Yeah, I got a gremlin. Um, oh man. Um, 1 second.
Great worries at all. Yeah, I have to tell everybody, please do look further into some of Dan's work. Do you have a YouTube channel, Dan?
It doesn't have it really doesn't have much of anything on it. But if you go to the webmatrix.net, I have about over 150 different shows I've done since, there's a list of all the shows, and it has like a historical timeline from um getting this reactivated here again. 1 second.
No problem at all.
Um, bear with me here. Okay,
Good. There we go.
there. So current slide. Okay, I've got that fixed now.
Perfect. It's well worth the wait. Okay.
Yeah, it just locks up my whole system. I had to basically go in and do a reboot here of everything. Okay. How I got involved in the disclosure movement, 1969, secret reports coming out. Draco started an alliance. Eisenhower met with the Galactic Federation of Worlds. They warned him about the deceptive Nebu Grays. MJ-12, headed by Alan Dulles, they circumvented that and signed an agreement that allowed abduction of our citizens, which is what happened to our friend Elena when she was 9 years old. Then by 1955, Eisenhower lost control to this alliance of the Nazis, Zakar, and Nebus. From this point forward, from 1955, every president, CIA director has been denied access into these secret programs. And he attempted to warn us in 1961. You have Eisenhower was denied access. Kennedy was, denied access through assassination. Carter, Clinton, CIA director, all of these individuals were denied access. And then in 97, Dr. Greer brings a leaked classified document that shows these illegal secret operations to the head of intelligence and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Vice Admiral Thomas Wilson. He was threatened to drop it immediately or see an early retirement and lose rank. And he told Dr. Greer, as far as I'm concerned, you can get your people to talk on this matter on record. In other words, willing to testify under oath. You have my permission to go to the media with this. This group is illegal. And so Dr. Greer, since 1993, since the CIA director he met with was denied access, he's been collecting witnesses. So he went forward. He had about 500 witnesses. 21 went to the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. I was one of them. And the media did a limited hangout, which means, they completely sanitized about that we have anti-gravity craft. There's bases on the other side of the moon, 57 different species. We have 0 point energy, just on and on. Incredibly explosive information. And so what's wonderful is that back in I won't read all this. Back in 2021, the Galactic Federation of Worlds has worked with the Earth Alliance, and they removed the Nazi Nachtwaffen, they're called, the Dark Fleet. They removed the Nebu Greys. They removed the Draco reptilians completely out of our solar system. So the dark cabal on our planet, their pyramid structure was decapitated. So they no longer have that support anymore. So now they're just kind of fighting for their last breath, of being backed into a corner because we're about to take back control of our planet fully. Let's see, what else?
Could you quickly just describe, so you mentioned the Galactic Federation of Worlds, and then you've also mentioned the Earth Alliance. Can you just give us a little bit of a brief on what that is?
Sure. The Galactic Federation of Worlds was formed back some time ago. It's a civilizations across the galaxy that have gathered. And then what's wonderful is they're benevolent and they have like a prime directive, which means, you don't interfere with races that are still evolving. And so the prime directive is basically the answer of why they don't land on the White House floor, lawn out there. But they not here to save us, but they're here to assist us in empowering ourselves and saving ourselves, because we don't learn anything if we have other people do things for us, right? And so the Earth Alliance is basically, ever since uh, they've been working behind the scenes since the 1940s with positive white hat sections of our military. And in the 1980s, they launched the Solar Warden program. And in fact, the 2001 event inspired Gary McKinnon, the UK hacker who found the US Navy Solar Warden secret space program. They wanted to put him away for 70 years for revealing that to the public. And so that's the Galactic Federation of Worlds, and that's the Earth Alliance that's working together with them. And was there more to your question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I just wanted a little bit of verification on that. And then you had also mentioned in respect to sort of the top of the pyramid, so understanding that they were more sort of non-benevolent beings. I guess what I'm understanding is that we are also now getting all this access from some of these higher beings, which I guess you've described as the Galactic Federation, which would include some of these more benevolent sort of beings kind of coming in and interjecting in what's happened, correct?
Yeah, they they work across the galaxy and helping other civilizations as well that have been enslaved. They would come these predatory extraterrestrials, uh, I think about 90+% are benevolent. There's just a small, it's kind of interesting. It kind of reflects, they say, about what 4.5, 5% on Earth are psychopaths that are, and it seems
Yeah.
it's like it kind of reflected out there in the galaxy that there's a certain amount. But fortunately, um, they've gathered together with the Intergalactic Confederation, which is what Elena calls the seeders. They basically were responsible for seeding planets and helping them evolve. They're highly evolved. They're like 20,000 years ahead of the Pleiadians, and I've been honored to get some communication from uh, some of them on some of the science of crystals and how to use quartz crystals and how to cut them in a particular way and how our consciousness can project holographic images and actually alter reality.
Yes, I've actually heard you talk a lot about that, and I would like to dive into that as well. As I've got my crystals here, I actually pulled out a whole bunch of them before the show. And I usually have them all around my computer as well. But I would be very interested if you would share some of that information with us and talk a little bit about your work and what you received on that.
Well, keep in mind that it's all consciousness, the crystal is just a tool. The cool it has no well, it does have a consciousness in its own way, but it's just a tool for consciousness. It's us. It's the let me go into this. I'm going to go do this rapidly. Okay. All right. Hey, Elena had me on her show back in 2022. I shared about this experience I had 1977, this Emether being. This is my lame attempt to try to reproduce what he was projecting in space about the relationship of geometry and consciousness. Elena identified it. She has a book that details 110 different extraterrestrial species, what planets they're on, all the details of them, and she has a good artistic ability. And so she's been able to recreate what they all look like. That's incredible. And this is from her book, Gift from the Stars. Janhan just recently let me know that the Emether actually initiated this and that he's been following my development and decided to provide me with science. He says, to my friend, this is the science of the universe. He has prepared you as the science transfer program allows, modeling my understanding. So when the time comes, I'll be able to understand the science and be able to pass it on. Um, so this experience that I had led me to trying to figure out what is the structure of this matrix and what's the relationship to quartz crystals. And so in the early 1980s, I sought out Dr. Marcel Vogel. He had like 140 patents. He was IBM's head scientist. And it's a long story, but he started with plant communication, and then it evolved into quartz crystals, which he studied for 17 years and set up a complete laboratory to do that. He started cutting the crystals based on a dream that he had because he helped a colleague at IBM. He pulsed his breath with the crystal and alleviated his back problem. So he's trying to figure out how to cohere the energies of the mind more effectively by cutting the crystal. And so I actually de delivered. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just looking at the cutting that he did there. That also looks like the Kabbalic tree of life.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, this is the tree of life. It's kind of interesting, the symbology, because the tree of life, you have the unmanifest or Godhead or whatever you want to call it, coming down into manifestation, into the earthly manifestation. And so it's interesting. You have like a 52-degree angle and a 60-degree angle. And there's definite correlations there.
Interesting.
Um, and so, I delivered all these crystals from the mines to Marcel, and he cut one of these as a gift for me. And he started experimenting. He started with 4 sides, 6, 8, 12, 16, like that, because he thought it would increase the vortex spin by having more facets on the crystal. But he didn't realize that when he wasn't respecting the natural lattice structure of the crystal, he was missing out on some aspect that I would have loved to have been able to share with him. These are photorealistic photorealistic images of Thor Hanaredian, who is Lena's contact, and her younger brother, who I'm in contact with, Jen Hanaredian. The symbol on his uniform is a
Good
star
luck.
maker.
Are they, wow, yeah, very handsome looking beings. Are
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, the good-looking dude, for sure.
are they Pleiadian or are they what
Yeah,
yeah,
these
okay.
are Pleiadians.
Uh,
Uh-huh.
okay, thank you.
So April, we started the first communications with Genhan because Elena said I could ask him some questions. We now have on marcelvogel.org about 200, and I lost count, pages of question and answer that I've been communicating with my dear friend Genhan, who's currently on Mars in Ares Prime Base. He's going to be transferred to an Altean ship soon, but when I first communicated with him, he was going to a university in the Pleiades, learning how to terraform planets. So he has a complete knowledge of the structure of the matrix and crystals and everything. Very, very highly advanced. And he has instruments. He revealed. I don't have like past life recall, but he said I was a scientist in Atlantis, and
This
he's always trying to recall my memory of that back then.
may I just have another look at that image there? So
This was Elena did this beautiful image from her book called The Cedars, which
yeah.
I highly recommend to everyone.
Wow, isn't that is beautiful? I've seen that image somewhere in my mind. Yeah, very nice. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh yeah, she's such an incredible artist. Um, yeah, this is a beautiful image.
Mhm.
No, he's shared the structure of the holographic matrix. Apparently, the flower of life is a blueprint of creation, and that of the multiverse is made up of all these bubbles or spheres that go into infinity. We're in one of these bubbles, and that each one has multiple densities. This is just, symbolic. In this bubble that we're in, we have 12 densities. The 13th is source, and the higher densities create the lower densities. The lower do not create the higher densities. The source is at a level of perfection and resonance with love. And so higher a being evolves through the densities, the more they resonate with this perfection. That's why they look good, right? And and more resonate with love, which is a good, nice thing to know that, these higher density beings are more in resonance with love and closer to perfection. Um, and, I think took me a while to get my head around this, how this multiverse works, with these, because you look at the flower of life, it's like these perfect spheres, right? And all geometrically perfect, but it turns out that they all exist in what's called the void, which has it's in non-linear. There's no time or space, and it's in this non-linear space. And so the bubbles are actually these different densities are not like perfectly geometrical. Like they're all like overlap and everything. Lena actually, this is an attempt to recreate what she saw
Mhm.
when
That's
on
cool.
board the craft.
I've heard people actually just on this sacred geometry topic while you're on it talking about, and I've seen this image close to the one you've just shown, but also talking about that there is that the flower of life now is sort of switched in terms of how it's opening. So it's not closed. It's actually sort of in this spiral. It's creating this spiral. Have you heard anything about that, or is that something that's not?
Uh, I'm not sure about the well, everything is like spiraling vortexes,
Mhm.
but I'm going to go into the flower of life here in just a little bit. Okay, back to quickly going through this. Um, okay, now the crystal can access this void, which is connected to all the dimensional spheres, space and time, and directly to source. There is this vortex singularity that's in the crystal. Um, okay, I'm gonna go through this super fast. The universe is made up of this tetrahedral fractal geometry, and that quartz is basically physically manifested on all densities at the same time. It's a interdimensional bridge, and so is water. Um, and our thoughts as we think them, they are geometric holographic projections that we project. Breath, as Marcel discovered, is like in Kundalini yoga, breath of fire, is like that. When it's coupled at the same time with a conscious thought, the pulse of breath, breath is connected to a multidimensional information transfer that's going on. Marcel was able to substantiate this in man-plant communication. He got a far greater reaction when he pulsed his breath connected to the plant. In fact, he did it all the way from Prague, Czechoslovakia to his laboratory in San Jose. Love is the connecting pulse between all living things in the universe, and it's how we evolve from, this is what the emether shared with me back in 1977. It's like through love, we we evolve from one density frequency up to the next. And that's exactly what Jen Han was saying. And that this matrix that we're in is in an ordered state of geometrical resonance. And so when you're thinking a dissonant thought, one of hate and fear and something like that, it doesn't resonate into the matrix. But love has, because it doesn't have dissonance, it's able to transcend the densities. Um, Water, love, quartz, they're all based on the same core fractal formula. And so they all interface naturally. I'm going rather rapidly on this. Water. Marcel brought this out that when they dug out ice core samples in Antarctica, every single geometry in the crystallographic world is exhibited in water, showing it's universally resonant. It resonates with everything. And Jan Han says dissonance cannot attune with an ordered state of geometrical resonance. Dr. Masuro Emoto's water crystallization formula shows that in water that, you have compassion, thank you, love you, it all has a beautiful pattern. But if you have like a dark dissonant thought, it doesn't allow it to take form. And water is like a good representation of this.
Wow.
And the med beds, how they here's the key thought that Jen Han says, that the universe tends toward perfection. And that's how the med beds work. Because if you overlay, superimpose a reconstructed healthy pattern over the damaged pattern, and then they use sound frequencies and things like that, it morphs into, and this is how, in the 20 and back, you've heard about people going for 20 years in the future, going to the secret space program, then a break back, and they wipe their memories, don't even know what happened, and you're right. And this is how they do it. They can go back in time to an earlier point and reconstruct. This gets a little too advanced. This is from Una. She's an emissary from the Intergalactic Confederation. They're 20,000 years ahead of the Pleiadians in their knowledge. And she just shared just recently that quartz is a transponder by nature, connects to points in the grid of space. It vibrates not only in the lattice of space, but the lattice of time. And she's talking about how in the crystal that it doesn't reorganize matter on a molecular level, but it repairs it by transponding the injured organic tissues with a vibratory key of a previous state before the alteration was made. It reorganizes dissonance with a resonant pattern. In other words, through time, like I'm in my 70s, but when you're back in your 20s and things like that, you're like more optimal. But that part of you that is more optimal is recorded in the lattice network of time, and you can transpond to that. And this is a fascinating project I worked on with Marcel. It was a holographic camera. And for the first time, I'm going to be able to show images that I've been seeking for years to get. For the first time on your show, I'm going to be able to share these. So the holographic field, you can tune through time. Alex Collier, Andromeda Contact, he said this is how they're able to reverse age a person, is that they can take a holographic picture of you that goes all the way back to your conception, and then they just pull out slides when your body was optimal, all your different parts of your body were optimal. They take that pattern, they overlay it. And
Is that what you've done? Because you certainly don't look 70, Dan.
oh yeah, yeah, I'm
We want your
75 now,
secret.
but I need to exercise some of this technology I'm learning. So this is this camera, the Delaware camera. It was called a patent in 1955 in Paris, France. My job was what this had sound oscillators and things. You take a drop of blood or a fingernail clipping. It's like has your fractal pattern of the whole of you, right? And
Wow.
so you tune into that, and then it projects it in three patterns, this holographic pattern in space. And it reflected in these reflectors and polarized lenses, and the silver emulsion on the film would capture these patterns, right? And my job with Marcel, I had a lot of extensive electronic engineering experience, was to make it a real-time display so you don't have to go through the laborsome photographic developing process. So this is for the first time I'm showing these images. I've been looking forever to try to find. Like, here is how they tuned into a pregnancy of this woman that's 50 miles away with a drop of blood, tuned into 1 month. Here it is in 2 months. Here it is in 3 months pregnancy. And here it went in 6 months pregnancy. So we're able to tune through the holographic field of time. This substantiates this reality that we are indeed holographic, and there is this aspect to tune through in time. And even with plants, this is like a Bach flower remedy on a pill bottle. And they're actually able to see the plant emanating from the energy. And here is a seed from a lily showing, progressing it through the bulb cycle of its life. You can see the bulb, and then progressing it further into the flower cycle. And here you can see the flower of the lily. And so within the seed is contained holographically all the different stages of future and past.
Wow.
And Vogel cut crystals, we were having a conversation, and Jen was saying, well, if they're cut rightly, following the lattice, they can be enhanced considerably. Thorhan tells me you know what type crystals correspond to what I say. Elena says the Vogel cut crystals, and Thorhan says yes. And I ask, are they significantly more powerful than a natural single for doing this work? And he said, oh, yes, they are. If it is cut rightly in perfect alignment with the grid of the lattice, natural raw quartz are, of course, effective, but the Vogel cut, as you name them, are a more surgical tool to operate in the fabric of space-time and universal consciousness. So this is how they form the crystals on the planet Era. They cut it in perfect alignment. You can see there's a hexagonal lattice, and they cut it in perfect alignment with that. And they use a 60-degree angle on one end and a 51.843, same as the Great Pyramid in Egypt, on the other end. This is how they form their crystals. Why this angle is because it acts as a transponder. It basically it affects the holographic structure of the matrix. It's how they build their frill generators. Frill is like the life force of the universe that they use to power their entire planet. And the 60-degree angle, the holographic matrix is tetrahedral. If you look at every angle on a tetrahedron, it's 60 degrees. And so that like interfaces in with the holographic matrix, the 60-degree angle. Interesting, the obelisk in Egypt, they have 60 degrees on the top. Now, Jen Han said the ratio of the hexagonal, pentagonal, multi-layered blueprint applied to a living organism will produce cellular evolution, humans, plants, stars, and so on. This ratio is the key to life and is also represented in the blueprint, you know, as the flower of life. Those who understand the secret geometry of the flower of life can create universes and life forms that populate them. And here I've illustrated, you know, showing the hexagonal, the pentagonal, and you have the 51.843-degree angle, and you have the 60-degree angle in the flower of life blueprint. And our DNA is made up of this hexagonal, pentagonal relationship. Yeah, this gets kind of okay. And with the crystal that creates this vortex singularity between these two vortices that are coming in opposite directions, you have a 60-degree, well, the 51.843 is related to the golden mean ratio and pentagonal geometry, which is all the golden mean. And the golden mean is geometry that goes into infinity, right? And then you, on the 60-degree angle, you have hexagonal geometry, which is related to the tetrahedron. So this end writes to the matrix, and this one transponds, and so they come together, and they create what's called the eye of the crystal. Now, this is really special. This part, this was forbidden knowledge. I asked, you know, it's probably out of my past life memory or something. I happened to ask the right question, but this is forbidden knowledge that they're not supposed to share according to the Prime Directive. But Thorhan was able to obtain special authorization from the Galactic Federation of Worlds. I asked him basically, is there a dimensional portal that's between these two triads that's created that connects to all dimensions? And it was a long delay in order to get to this answer, but this is the basis of how they power their entire planet and the basis of how they power their starships. He says, it works by finding the phase conjugation node inside the crystal by projecting inwards the geometrical shapes of the two opposite points, like a mirror. There is the vortex singularity of the crystal. Focus your thought and energy just there, and you may project your consciousness to anywhere you wish in this universe and to other universes, to other densities, other dimensions. Anything is accessible in space, dimension, and time. This is great power, Elena. You know, Elena's relaying this to me. It is very important information. I'm honored to be allowed to share this with you. So it's quite an honor that they allowed this information. And this is the eye of the crystal that's created. There's two torsion fields that are spinning in opposite directions in two different frequencies, create this vortex singularity into what's called the eye of the crystal. These ratios of different angles of inclination of the two termination points. You have the 60-degree and you have the 51.843. Jenhan explains the two dynamics counter-rotate and meet at the vortex singularity because this counter-rotating dynamics, the vortex is opened by phase conjugation of the two frequencies at the same frequency rate. In other words, if they were both 60 or both 51 point degree, the dynamics cancel. They have to be a little bit different or else they cancel out completely. You need a difference in the speed rate of the angle creates the vortex spin, a different frequency rate. That's why they operate at a different frequency. For the experience to tend toward perfection, and since nothing in the universe ever reaches the absolute point of perfection, the universe is alive through the dynamics of evolution. Yeah, how these communications, by the way, happen. Oh, no, let's see. That was not supposed to happen. Okay. So, how these communications happen, when Elena was 9 years old, the Greys abducted her. Horrible experience. They put a tracking implant inside of her head. The Galactic Federation of Worlds, Thorhan and others, they busted in. They rescued her. They took her aboard the Galactic Federation ship. And it was very dangerous and life-threatening, and they couldn't remove it. And so what they had to do is they had to retune the frequency to a military quantum channel that allows her to communicate directly to Thorhan. And so what Thorhan sees and hears, she can see and hear, and what she sees and hear, vice versa. A very advanced technology, and they don't use electromagnetics like we do. They use quantum communications. And since that time, she's been retuned in order to not bother Thorhan, he's busy, to connect to Jenhan directly, to answer these questions. So that's why, that's how these communications exchange. But onward, let's see, here we go. Okay, this is how they convert etheric energy into physical reality. The 51.843 angle geometry down here transpons the etheric energy, and the 60-degree angle geometry imprints it into the holographic matrix of the universe. This is a great network. This is how we implement etheric energy into physical reality. This is how they actually create physical reality in the world. And this is how the liminal geometric point of transfluxation allows the intentions of consciousness to imprint a geometric thought pattern. Now, I shared with Jenhan this 1970s Kirlian photograph showing this double coiled vortex coming off of a Kirlian photograph of a copper pyramid. And Jenhan says, a pyramidion creates a frill vortex. Frill is the etheric energy. The vortex you depict in this visual is the etheric energy harvested by the pyramidion. The dynamic influx of this harvested energy, the mathematical ratio of the pyramidion, generates a double coil torsion field. And so he says the two dynamics swirling in opposite directions create a phase conjugated tension that creates a singularity in the hologram, a convergence of infinite power. And then I don't remember selecting this, but I'm going along with it. I was told them that the mission you have chosen consists in teaching the Terrans how they can change their reality. You always knew this. Teach them how to activate the vortex and how to modify the holographic matrix. And so how you activate the vortex in the crystal that's cut in this particular way is you have to piezoelectrically stimulate it. What happens is it creates an exponential reaction across all the spectrum densities when you electronically or physically offset the charge triads in it. And this is, where the vortex, if you follow these angles across, this is where the vortex I is where you apply electronic or physical pressure. You can measure it. I put a little piece of tape there so I know where to squeeze, Elaine and I set up our crystals using pure silver electrodes pulsing at 20 hertz to keep the vortex open continuously. I could tell you some stories about this one. We're doing a newer design of, we call it the reality modulator. Jen Han calls it reality shaping technology. It To do this kind of work, you have to kind of meditate, get yourself into like a gamma brainwave level to be effective. He he said about the pineal gland. The crystals in your pineal gland are calcium carbonate, which is organically produced by the tissues of the human body. These microcrystals generate an electromagnetic field at the center of which is an interdimensional vortex of consciousness. This vortex is where our soul, you could say, connects to our avatar, to animate it, and that is what connects to the vortex open singularity into the crystal that allows you to interface. So I know it's a lot to dump all at once, but
Wow, that is
uh,
incredible information.
there's a lot more, but we only have so much time for the show, so I'm trying to
Well,
pack
let's
as
make
much as
room
we
for our
can into it.
hopefully, because this stuff is mind-blowing. Wow. And I'll have to watch this again, I think, to gather, some of that. But an amazing, uh, what an amazing amount of information you've shared. Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Wow. I'm, I'm a little mind blown trying to take in that information.
I know it's a lot to try to well, how can I apply this to my daily life, right?
Yeah.
Like how does this relate to what we're doing right now in our world?
Oh,
I wanting to take, all the what Marcel taught me and the techniques that he showed with crystal healing, it's like everybody would like to, use a crystal to heal on themselves or help someone with their consent, of course. Um, and so wanting to take that to the next level. And so you go to marcelvogel.org and the latest techniques, of course, with a medical disclaimer, right? Of how you can heal yourself and heal others with their consent using this specially cut crystal. I have no financial interest in this whatsoever, but there's a link on there to some crystal people, that crystal light and sound, that have a special Vogel already uncut crystal that they're training their cutters to cut the crystals in this particular manner. And you can get a crystal for less than about $170, which is really reasonable for a cut quartz crystal, and they go up from there, but the small one works just as well as the large one for opening the vortex and doing for these type. So I've been getting these techniques of how to if you have like something going on in your body, how you can use your consciousness, and how to holographically project a healed image and overlay that onto the dissonant, thing that's going on in your body to cause it to help morph it into reality. Because this is really the science of manifestation. This is the science that they use to create physical reality, out of etheric energy. Einstein was wrong. There is the ether. There's this all-pervading ether that's out there, and that they take this ether and they transpond it and they can convert it into physical reality.
I'd
And
like,
it's how the med beds work too.
yeah, med beds. That's another conversation too. I know that's a bit of a deep one, but boy, that's a lot. That's a lot of great information, and we'll be sure to leave that link, Dan, for the folks to go in and have a look at that exciting tool. Wow, yeah, I definitely would love one of these guys, and I'm myself am very much into crystals and been working with the energy. So that's just such an amazing way to learn to understand how to better use this great technology.
Yeah, and I love what you're doing, the focus of raising the vibration, because that's the whole thing is that we're all connected in this planetary matrix. And it's really through love that we recognizing, the oneness and interconnected, because we're all fractals of this one source. And that you know, that's why I've been wanting to be involved in the disclosure movement to disclose, decades of deceptions, along with, I'm just one voice of many voices that are wanting to awaken the public, because not everybody, everybody's so busy trying to just function and survive on this planet. They don't have like years of time to research all these documents and all these witnesses and all these things to put it together to understand the hidden reality that's been um, hidden for so many decades. And, it keeps its own best secrecy because when you try to talk about this stuff, it sounds like the most far-fetched science fiction movie that you ever could imagine. The fact that the Galactic Federation of Worlds got the Andromeda console, they can see through time, and they saw 350 years in the future that there was galactic-wide tyranny. And it all was because the violation of the Prime Directive, because of the Nazis and the Nibu, that they violated that if the timeline continued in the path and way, it would be galactic-wide tyranny, because their objective is to enslave worlds. And so that has been circumvented. That timeline has changed. And Elena's been on a Metaton ship where she saw 20 years in the future, and it was a beautiful world.
I see.
And so that's what brought the Galactic Federation of Worlds in, that worked with Eisenhower and everything behind the scenes. And it's when I was a kid in the 50s, I love science fiction movies, The Day There Stood Still and Forbidden Planet, and I thought, wow, how incredible to be able to interact with advanced races that are way ahead of us, I had no idea what I'd be doing here in the year 2024.
Oh, we're all being called, I think, to find each other and work together and really walk into this new paradigm, this new exciting time that I believe is manifesting now quicker than ever, right before our eyes. We're finding each other. They think we've all traveled long lineages together, and it's beautiful to reconnect. So thank you very much, Dan. I so appreciate having you here today.
Oh, my pleasure. Anything that helps put a seed into self-empowerment, that we are each affecting the global collective reality, unlike what Hollywood and other agencies that put all these dark images out, a lot of times. Um, yeah, when we know in our hearts that our to know that this world that can be liberated, and these technologies such as the med beds and everything is an absolute reality. When people understand this is a reality, that it's not science fiction conspiracy theories, then I think it assists it into bringing it into manifestation. Because as long as people don't realize that this reality is something that is feasible and achievable, um, it stays out of people's minds. But they have the medbed technology. It's they have facilities on the moon that have thousands of them available that can be released once once we clean house on this planet, where the criminals of humanity are brought to justice, and we can move forward as a peaceful civilization and eventually join the Galactic Federation of Worlds. And then we have access to you know, all the incredible gifts that they have.
Yeah, well, it's my understanding that we are also going to undergo somewhat of an ascension process. And again, that's probably for another show, but I think we'll be meeting our galactic brothers and sisters sooner than we may think.
The
Yeah.
the disclosure plan was given in the beginning of 2023, and it's currently activated. And we will start seeing more and more of their ships in their skies, and it's doing it slowly. And in fact, I see releases of their revealing anti-gravity craft more, because they're decades advanced. And so it would be a shock for everybody. They want to do everything in a way that in the least way impacts everyone. And so it's going to be like a gradual drip, 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 you
Mhm.
know, to get everybody up to speed. And so we're all on the same page of creating a beautiful world that we all know in our heart can be.
And so we Earthlings continue to try to be the change we wish to see in the world until we start to see it and manifest. Well, thank you so much to all the viewers out there. Once again, Dan, thank you very much. It was such a pleasure to be able to connect with you. And thank you for teaching us all today all of this super valuable information. I will ensure to leave all of Dan's links below. And namaste, everyone. Just wishing you lots of light and lots of love. Have a great day.
Yeah, been my honor. Thank you, Wendy.